Hey guys, I'm gonna start reading again from where we left off last week. So I'm gonna start at chapter 2. What do you guys think about the book so far? I definitely read ahead. I'm so sorry. I do that all the time to you guys, but I'm really enjoying it so far. I think that it's definitely interesting and kind of reminds me a bit of the movie what is his name? The Tim Burton movies, Coraline, and what's the other one? Like A Nightmare Before Christmas, kind of like creepy a little bit, weird, different. So I guess we'll see what happens next. So this is chapter 2. Chapter 2 is called Benjamin. Jack stands on the wall, his gray-black feathers ruffling in the breeze as he watches me struggle to squeeze a thigh bone back into place. The sun is high in the sky, but the air is still cold. Only a small part of the fence collapsed last night, but my hands are frozen, so it's taking longer than it should to fix. Caw! Jack shouts an alarm call right next to my ear that makes me wince as I turn around. A boy about my age is standing just a few paces away. I blink, wondering if my daydreams are becoming more real as well as more frequent. But he doesn't disappear. My heart races with excitement. He's a real, live, living boy. His long, dark coat is open, and a tiny winter lamb is poking its nose out from beneath his armpit. Are those human bones? The boy looks at the femur in my hand and the assortment of bones sticking up out of the wall. Yes, and no! I scramble to my feet and try to block his view of the nearest, obviously human skull. What I mean is, they aren't real. The lie catches in my throat and I feel my face reddening. They look real. A smile plays at the corner of his mouth. He doesn't seem scared, just curious. Well, I suppose they are real. I rest the femur on top of the wall, my fingers trembling. I don't want to scare him away. What I mean is they aren't fresh. He raises his eyebrows. Like, I didn't kill anyone. Oh, I didn't think you did. He looks along the wall, then beyond it to the house. It's sitting low, legs folded underneath it, so it looks fairly normal, like a small log cabin. Are you on a holiday or something? I just moved here with my grandmother. I've never noticed this house here before. Where did it come from? It walked here. Baba would scold me for telling the truth, but I learned a long time ago that nobody believes me when I say the house walks away, and it's easier than making up even more ridiculous lies. The boy looks from the house to me and smiles politely. He thinks I'm joking, and he's waiting for the real explanation. I'm Marinka. I hold up my hand, eager to change the subject and touch a real, live, living person. I suppose technically Baba is alive, but she doesn't count, what with her being so old. The boy takes my hand in his. It's warm and slightly damp with sweat. A smile bursts across my face, and my cheeks ache with the force of it. I can't remember the last time I spoke to a living person, let alone touched one. It must be at least a year ago, even longer since it was some of my own age. I'm Benjamin. He pulls his hand away, and I wonder for a moment if I gripped it too tight, but then I'm distracted by the lamb wriggling under his coat. Can I stroke it? I ask Benjamin, and he nods. And I gently ruffle the top of the lamb's head. It's tiny. He's only a few days old, an orphan. I'm taking him home to hand rear. How lovely. I'd love a lamb. Benjamin looks at Jack cautiously. He's strutting back and forth along the wall, his eyes firmly locked on the lamb. Oh, Jack wouldn't hurt him, I say, wondering just for a moment if he would. Is he your pet? Sort of. I lift my elbow and Jack hops onto it. I raised him from a chick. He was an orphan, too. I found him on one of the Orkney Islands. Did your house walk there, too? Benjamin smiles, and his eyes shift with mischief. The house can't walk on water. It swam there. I laugh nervously, as it occurs to me how ridiculous that must sound. Benjamin tucks the lamb deeper into his coat and glances up at the sky. A cold wave of panic crashes over me, because he's about to leave, and I'll be alone again. This could be my last chance to talk to a living person for, well, maybe years. Would you like some kvass? I ask quickly. What's that? A drink. I bite my lip, wishing I'd offer him something else. We're in the Lake District in England. Of course Benjamin wouldn't know what kvass is, and it would probably taste really strange to him. The lamb bleats incredibly powerfully for such a little thing. Something for the lamb, I exclaim far too loudly as the idea hits me. I should. Benjamin looks at the house suspiciously, and I wonder if it woke up and if it did something to scare him, like shift its wake or poke out a claw. I glance back at him, relieved to see that it's still asleep. Please, my chest aches from wanting and willing him to stay. I haven't met anyone from around here yet, I say, and I'd like to learn about the town, and my voice trails away. As I look into Benjamin's eyes, they're big, brown, and friendly, and my heart does a little flip as I realize he's going to stay. All right, he smiles. I'll try some kvass. And if you bring out some warm water, too, I've got something to feed the lamb. I tread softly so as not to wake the house. We used to play a game when I was little called Yaga's Footsteps, in which I would try to sneak up to the house and touch its legs before it heard me and chase me away. Because of the game, I know all the house's blind and deaf spots, and all the places I can sit and watch for the living without its ever knowing. Baba is asleep in her chair by the fire. I decide cocoa would be more familiar to Benjamin and take longer to drink than kvass, so I silently lift 3 mugs from the shelf above the hearth, scoop cocoa, milk powder, and sugar into 2 of them, and carefully pour warm water from the kettle hanging over the fire into all 3. Jack lands on the porch with a thud, and his claws click across the wooden floor towards me. I shoot him an angry look and lift my finger to my lips. He stops, tilts his head, and shrugs, his wings in a nonchalant apology. As I creep out with the mugs, he follows me, his claws tapping even louder than before. Honestly, sometimes I think he wants me to get in trouble. Benjamin is sitting on a large rock overlooking the valley, just the other side of the fence. It's big enough for both of us, and another flutter of excitement runs through me because in a moment, I'll be sitting next to a real, live, living person. Maybe we'll talk about and become friends. Maybe he'll visit me again, and we'll go for walks and play games like other children do, or at least I think they do. My heart feels like it must burst at the thought of them, and the mugs tremble in my hands. The bone gate would rattle and wake the house, so I step over the wall where the fence has fallen. A cool gust of wind takes my breath away. I'm not supposed to go farther than the fence, but every time I do, even though it's never for more than a few paces, I feel more alive. Everything seems bigger, brighter, and more colorful. And I wonder if this is how my mother felt when she snuck out in the middle of the night and stole the gondola. It smells like cocoa, Benjamin says after sniffing the drink. Oh, it is cocoa. I thought we were having kvass. This is warmer than kvass. I take a sip of mine and buzz as the warmth and sugar flow down into my belly. Benjamin balances his mug at the edge of the rock and pulls a bottle and a crumpled envelope out of his pocket. Is that for the lamb? I ask. Yes, it's a special kind of milk powder. He pours some into the bottle, covers it with warm water, shakes it up, and then swaps the bottle top for one with a treat on it. Would you like to feed him? Oh, yes, please. I put my mug down and Benjamin lifts the lamb onto my lap. I try to wrap my shawl around him, but it's difficult because his thin legs keep kicking clumsily around. Eventually, he settles into an uncomfortable-looking position, and Benjamin passes the bottle over. The lamb sucks greedily, milk dripping out of one side of his mouth. Jack squawks theatrically and struts off to the withered heather brush, where he makes a show of flipping over stones to look for bugs. He's jealous. I'll make it up to him later. Give him something nice from the pantry. Benjamin watches the lamb for a while, then picks up his mug again. So, will you go to school in town? I shake my head. I'm homeschooled because we move around so much. I don't tell him it's because I have to learn how to be the next guardian, that I have to learn the language of the dead and the death journey words, how to cook for the dead and guide them through the gate. Bubba says the living aren't supposed to know these things, and I'd rather talk to him about life anyways. Do you go to school? I ask. wondering what it would be like to sit in a room filled with children and play games with them during breaks. Just imagining it makes me feel giddy. Usually, I've been suspended, though. What does that mean? I'm not allowed to go for a week. It's not because I'm bad or anything, Benjamin adds quickly. It was because of a stupid argument with some boy that got out of hand. None of us meant it to. Benjamin sighs. I just don't fit in here, you know. I nod, but I don't know. I've never had the chance to see if I fit in or not. How come you move around so much, he asks. My grandmother is a musician. She likes to travel for inspiration. I pass the empty bottle back to Benjamin, but keep the lamb in my lap. He's so warm. There's nothing like the warmth of the living. It seems to soak deep into my soul. What about your parents? Benjamin swigs the last of his cocoa. My parents died when I was a baby. The image of the Yaga house desperately trying to outrun the flames engulfing it burns through my mind. I blink it away and take a slow breath in, trying to ease the cramping in my chest. My mother died when I was a baby too, Benjamin says, quietly. A ripple of understanding relaxes the muscles around my ribs. It feels nice to have something in common with Benjamin, even if it is something as awful as this. I think about my mother all the time. Benjamin carefully wraps the lamb's bottle in wax paper, even though I never knew her. I know what you mean, I nod. I wonder what my life would be like if my parents had lived. My chest tightens again as I think of my gondola-stealing mother and my roof-dancing father. Would they have understood why I don't want to be a guardian? Would they have let me be something else? I turn to Benjamin, willing him to change the subject. So, it's just you, your grandmother, your jackdaw, and your walking house? Benjamin lifts his eyebrow and smiles. Yep, I nod again. And we move around a lot, and I don't go to school, so I can get pretty lonely. I laugh, although it's not funny at all. Well, it can be lonely at school too, even when you're surrounded by people. How can you be lonely surrounded by people? You know, if they aren't friendly or if they don't understand you. I think about all my nights guiding the dead. How can I be surrounded by them and still feel alone? I always thought it was because they're dead and I'm alive. I didn't realize that you could feel the same way about the living. So, what's with the bones on your wall? Benjamin asks. It's kind of a tradition. Like Halloween or something? Something like that. I look down at the town by the lake and the little villages surrounding it. Do you live in the town? I live in the village there. Benjamin leans close and points across the valley. I feel the warmth of his breath against my cheek and I stop still, my whole body tingling. He leans back and points in the other direction, along the mountain. I've been helping out at a farm over there, in the next valley. It was my father's idea. He wants me to keep busy while I'm suspended. That's where I got the lamb from. Benjamin nods at the lamb, now asleep in my lap. I'm a bit worried my father won't let me keep him, to be honest. Oh, I'm sure he will. How could he resist? I stroke the soft, downy fur under the lamb's chin. You're probably right. Benjamin nods slowly. But I should have asked him first. He's not too happy with me, you know, over the suspension thing. He pauses, and his eyes widen. Hey, I've got an idea. Why don't you keep the lamb just until tomorrow? I'll ask my father tonight, then come back and pick him up in the morning. Would you mind? My head spins. Of course I want to keep the lamb and see Benjamin again in the morning, but I've dreamed about making a friend for as long as I can remember. A living friend my own age to talk to and do things with, and Benjamin and I have so much in common. It's like this is meant to be. But what about the house? What about Baba? And if they find out I've been talking to a living soul, they won't let me out of their sight for a month, probably longer. I look at Benjamin and his big, easy smile melts all my worries away. I'd love to have him, I say. But the moment Benjamin has walked away and I step back over the wall, my worries crowd around me, 100 times darker and heavier than before because the house has sat up on his hunches and is staring right at me, a deep frown in its 2 front windows.